Good morning, Internet friends. I thought today we would take the opportunity to talk about Aurora HDR. But first, and more importantly, let's talk about how many socks I got. How much socks, how many socks. I don't remember quantities in English, but this was my sock haul for Christmas, and my friends who contributed to this, thank you. This will last me about 2 months because I hike a lot. Thank you. Alright, so the purpose of this is going to be to show you the difference between bracketing with Lightroom and Aurora HDR and how both of them process them differently. So let's once again take a peek at Lightroom. This is our flattened DNG according to Lightroom. Now just to illustrate what happens when we open up a DNG in another platform, let's open this up in Aurora HDR so we can see what happens when another program opens up a DNG. So we're going to right click on our DNG, edit in Aurora HDR. Just going to edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. And Aurora HDR is going to do what it can with its engine in order to make this more suitable as an HDR photo. So here's what we have at first, and this actually looks pretty darn good. But let's take a look at what happens when we merge our three exposures using only Aurora HDR. Our files, which I've already selected here, drag those in, and it will display all three of our exposures. I want auto alignment. I do want chromatic aberration reduced. Let's turn on ghost reduction, and you'll notice a huge difference between Lightroom here is that you can select which exposure you want as your base layer for ghost reduction, which I think is really cool. Can you spot the difference between the two? So what's happened here is your colors are more vibrant, your colors are much more true, but your details are also much, much sharper than they were in that DNG. So although a DNG is Adobe provisioned and Aurora HDR did play around in the background with the DNG, just from a base level, look at the difference between what Aurora HDR has done with merging and what Lightroom has done with merging. Now, again, you can merge in Lightroom and then open in Aurora HDR and get that result that we had, or you can use one program that merges and you have far more control over by itself. Not only that, but we also should remember that this program is non-destructive. So let's take a look at what Aurora HDR can do now. So one of the first things that you're going to notice is that it actually seems very familiar with Lightroom. I think that the learning curve of this is pretty darn easy. You just need to learn where certain things are. Such as your zoom is up here. You have a before and an after right here, as well as a slider that will show you the differences between your base merged photos. You've got your back button here, your history, crop, presets, and collections of presets. Now, you can go online to Skylum's marketplace, or you can also hit Get More Aurora HDR Looks, and they've got things like textures, LUTs, which will change your color profile, as well as more presets that are available to you if that is something that you are interested in. So let's close that back down because I will not be using this. And then your final button up here will just close your side panel. And you've also got your export button here too, which actually is really cool. I'm actually really excited about this. So you can provision this apparently to export to specific areas, and Skylum software actually does work very well with others. They know that other programs exist. They're more than willing to work with others. So you can open things in Photoshop, Lightroom, Photos by itself, and provision what programs you want in there. All right, so let's take a peek at the actual editing now. So from a base level, this looks very similar to Lightroom, doesn't it? You have your basic edits right here that are the same as Lightroom, except for Smart Tone right here. Smart Tone algorithmically analyzes your photos and will change it based on what it thinks you need. So like this is editing my colors as well as my contrast, and everything else is pretty much the same as Lightroom as far as your basic edits are concerned. Let's scroll down to color, where you have saturation, vibrance, and then something else that's different called color contrast. So we all know what contrast does. Contrast seeks to either equalize our blacks and whites or it moves them to polar opposite directions on our histogram. Color contrast does the same thing, except if you move this guy up, as I am right now, it's creating more contrast between complementary colors. Those of you who have been following me know that I really like my colors, but I don't want them to be too strong. So let's play around with that a little bit and find a place where I'm happy. I'm happy right there. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff and why Aurora HDR exists. That is going to be our Hdr Tools. So HDR Enhance is mostly full of smart tools that are going to either enhance our edges or soften our edges. Let me show you. So clarity will of course increase the clarity, but in a way that's much different than Lightroom does. Lightroom clarity, when you increase that, it also increases the contrast between the whites and the blacks and often makes them grainy and separate, and it's gross the way that they do that. But recall that most of these are smart tools. So your clarity, although yes, it does certainly play with your blacks, it doesn't give that same grainy, grungy, weird effect that Lightroom does when you play too hard with it. Because if I do play too hard with it and I go all the way up, that still doesn't look bad, but it's not my style, so I'm going to go all the way back down here. Smart Structure is really cool. Smart Structure enhances the structure of your photos, which means that it will go through and analyze the edging and attempt to create a contrast between those. So let's take a peek. Let's just go all the way up here. So what I'm looking at right now are all of the edges. Look especially at the edges of the clouds and how they're popping out now. Let's zoom into these birds. So birds right now are relatively fuzzy, except especially this one. That's just because my exposure wasn't quite fast enough. But while we're at it, let's look at the edge of these buildings. And let's go ahead and increase our Smart Structure slowly. And the clouds behind them, as well as the edging of the building and the edge of the birds, have now significantly increased. Now, I don't like this look down here because there is too much detail on the bottom, so it is increasing the structure much too much for me in that aspect. However, I really like that we have more contrast in our clouds now. So when I'm done doing my basic edits, what I will probably end up doing is adding a filter on top of my photo that will further increase the structure, but not affect the bottom in a way that I did not like. So now we've got Microstructure. Microstructure is pretty cool because it goes into pixels as opposed to edging. Microstructure is going to significantly enhance the details of our photo. This is also what we generally associate most HDR photography to be. It's very grungy, it's very detailed. Sometimes though, they add a softness to it, which is also a tool that is available to it. Shout out to Matt's Road Trip on Twitter, by the way, because I think he uses the crap out of this tool, and if I'm wrong, I owe you $5. So to illustrate what Microstructure does, let's go all the way up here and go a little bit crazy. So you can see that there is an immense amount of detail now through each pixel. There is a lot of grain because it's gone through each pixel and has now enhanced them. So our edging is very, very sharp. Our clouds are very sharp, very contrasted, and any details that we have in our photo are quite nuts. Now, there is a way, if this is a style that you use, you can soften it and make it look like more of that creamy HDR look, but this is certainly not my style. But let's also see what happens when we do the opposite, when we take away Microstructure. It's going to go through and now reduce and soften each individual pixel. However, it's going to leave our edges very sharp because of what we've done with our Smart Structure and our clarity up here. So now you have very, very soft, very blended pixels, as opposed to this crazy grunge effect that we have up here. For my photography, I like things soft, I like things natural, but I also like things sharp. So this is the perfect tool for me. Conversely, if we go and we soften things up now, but notice that when we soften things up, our edges stay the same. So the huge benefit to this, as opposed to denoising or downing your clarity, is that it analyzes pixel by pixel and either softens or increases the microstructure instead of treating everything as one and either clarifying it or reducing noise, because my edges are still quite sharp, as you can see. All right, so let's go on down to Hdr D Noise. This is something that I don't need because I have now greatly softened my photo, And my ISO at the time of exposure was also 160 that you can see right here. So my photo doesn't have a lot of noise. I also haven't gone nuts on my enhancement, therefore I don't have a lot of noise. For the sake of illustration though, let's up our clarity like crazy. And so now you can see a little bit of grain in there. So let's denoise it now. And you can see that your edges are still very crisp, but all of that grain has gone down. But again, it's not something that I want because I did not want my clarity that high in the first place. So this is a tool that I'm going to skip. Conversely, you have a smoothing and a boost inside of your denoise that helps you to blend everything a little bit better, where Lightroom does not do the same thing. Lightroom blurs its pixels, where Aurora HDR attempts to blend your pixels, making it look so much better and so much creamier than Lightroom ever can. So let's up my radiance here. I would like it to be pretty smooth, y'all know me. And if I up my shadows, it's just going to blend my shadows in just a little bit more, which doesn't make too much of a difference, except in some of the buildings in here. So let's just up that a little bit. But the other really cool thing that image radiance does is add warmth or coolness to your highlights. So if I'm taking a sunset and my sunset didn't quite pan out the way that I wanted it to, I can add warmth into my highlights and really give it more of that sunsetty feel. Alternatively, if my sunset was a little too sunsetty, I can make it colder, like this. But this was a sunset scene, and I think it's pretty well balanced the way that it is. I might actually make it colder because it was winter, and I was freezing my butt off on this one. So I am going to reduce the warmth on that one, and just leave it right there. Now, Polarizing Filter, most of us knows what it does. It enhances our blues, which I don't really need for this because my blues are just fine. There's no blue feature in my photo, so I'm not worried about that. Okay, Hdr Details Boost is the coolest tool. I use this for portraits, I use this for cityscapes, I use this for nature. Like if I do any processing with any photo right now, there's always one step, and that one step is to always put it in Aurora HDR and mess with the Details Boost right now. I am just insane about this. So if there is one reason to grab this, it is this tool. Hdr Details Boost analyzes your photo and manages it based on the sizing of the groups of pixels. So you've got your large group, your medium group, and your small group. Your small group is going to give you either a ton of grain or a ton of smoothness in your very small, intricate details. So let's go hard on our small details. And especially take a look at this because this might be the most detailed aspect of our photo. Do you see how every single branch in this photo and every single little piece of dirt is now enhanced? Now let's do medium all the way. Do you see how it's taken larger groups and enhanced them as opposed to every single little detail in the ground right here? Now let's do large. Large hasn't done too much to this, but it has certainly taken the brights, the large lines right here, and enhanced those. So that might be a little bit of overkill, but that's just to illustrate how incredible this thing is. So for portraiture especially, you don't always get the exact amount of sharpness on a face that you want, but because especially of that large details boost, you're able to sharpen the eyes and especially the face so much easier than you would have been able to sharpening using a mask in Photoshop and then Lightroom. It's just a pain in the butt. This does everything with the click of a button. It's incredible. But just like anything as well, you can also soften all of your details. So what I usually do is I will just slightly enhance my small details, reduce my mediums, and up my larges. And that's generally my formula. So naked eye from far away, not too much difference, but you can certainly see that everything is sharper. Let's go into the city and see the difference with it on and off and on. Just look at the Chase logo right there. See how much sharper it is? But it's not overdone though, and that's why I like it. It's not grainy, it's not noisy. It just analyzed it and did it perfectly, and I didn't have to spend an hour doing it. There's also protection and masking, which again, I don't really need. If your photo does have a lot of noise, that is something that you should consider, but I don't mind, so we're good. So glow is very similar to radiance, except that it only manages your highlights and it blends them in. You can increase your amount of glow. You can smooth it out so it doesn't look so glaring in your highlights and it blends into your mediums and darks a little bit more. You can also increase the brightness if you like, but also increase the warmth for more of that sunsetty or night feel. There, so here's the difference that we have. It's just got a nice little glow around the city now. Now, did it affect our edges? That is always something that I am very concerned with. No, it has not affected our edges at all. There is no smoothing. Tone curve. Tone curve is standard. It is in all Adobe programs. It's in all Skylum programs. It's pretty much in any advanced photography program that you can buy on the shelves right now. If you do not know how to use this, I have words. I have many, many words for you, but we can certainly go into a tutorial on how to use it effectively later. So I'm just going to play around with it real quick. Mute my blacks, bring those back down. I'm going to slightly S-curve it, and that's where I'm happy. All right, so we have color toning next. Color toning is just another name for split toning. It's where we take our highlights or our shadows, color them specifically, and then blend them together and or balance them. So because this is a sunset photo, I'm just going to use it to warm up my photo real quick. So now we have dodging and burning. Dodging and burning is a way to dodge our brights or to burn our darks. So it's kind of like another contrast tool, only more of a local adjustment. And in Aurora HDR, you actually paint it on. And I'm just going to use this building right here to illustrate what it does. So let's just paint over that. Let's say that those are buildings that I want to highlight, that I want your eye to be drawn to more. So I would draw my mask right here, and let's adjust our amount that we want on there. And now your eye is specifically much more drawn to that white building than perhaps any of the other details. So now I have Vignette. Vignette is still a very standard tool that's available in most professional photography processing programs. Wow, say that 5 times fast. It is a way of basically framing your photo or making sure that your eye is drawn to something very specific. There is a post and a pre-crop as well, so you can select when you would like it to vignette. But I am most bothered right now by this highlight, and I think I want to bring this bridge out a little bit more. So let's take a peek at what we can do with those. Let's add a new adjustment layer, and we are going to get rid of this obnoxious little bugger right here. But obviously I don't want to affect the entire photo, so I need to mask. And I do that by clicking on this paintbrush, and I'm going to brush. Today, I'm going to paint, and I can increase and decrease my size either up here or with the bracket buttons, just the same as Lightroom or Photoshop. And I'm going to paint over this bugger because she is bright and in my way, and I am the only queen. And let's go in and just decrease our highlights, and that will fix her. I want this bridge to pop out a little bit more. So I'm gonna go and add another layer, brush over my bridge. And if this was a tutorial video, I wouldn't just be painting over an entire bridge with details behind it, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to do that so we can bring out some of the bridge and let your eye be drawn to that a little bit more. So all that I really want to do is up my whites. And before I forget, let's take a look at some presets. They actually do have some really remarkable presets that I like. I have never committed to one, but y'all, it's tempting sometimes. So Warm Landscapes looks pretty great. Looks very dreamy. Oh my god. It's way too dreamy for me. But luckily I can decrease the amount of preset on there. Alright, so that's just with a preset applied to it, and that looks pretty darn good, wouldn't you say? I'm gonna go back into my history and delete that. If you're like me and you are a snob and you really don't like using presets, obviously you don't have to. What I'm really just trying to do is illustrate how accessible this is for an amateur or just an at-home photographer, someone who is not taking this seriously as a career and just wants to make some lovely photos, because these presets are genuinely incredible. You guys have really done a good job with these presets. So the final thing that we really want to do is a before and after, of course. You can go up here to quick preview, click on that. That was our original stack. This is what we have now. You can also click here for our before and after, just like that. And I think one final touch I might want actually is to crop this to a 10:16, because I don't want all those cars down there. I find that a little bit distracting. You know what? I'm gonna cheat. I'm almost straight. There we go. Now I'm straight. Done. All right, so that's going to be my final look for this photo with Aurora HDR. Now, let's just go back through memory lane real quick and remember what Lightroom did with our bracketed exposures and what Aurora HDR did with our bracketed exposures. Just from a basic level, I don't think there's a contest, guys. And like I said, they've got LUTs, they've got presets, they have all of these things that are available to you for free as an additive to this program. And it's also a software that works very, very well with other programs, as opposed to creating DNGs that don't work with any other programs, which is, it's maddening to me. On top of that, you pay for this one time and you get it forever. This is a professional program that I make a one-time payment with, and it has so many more features and it's so much more accessible, frankly, I think, than most of the other Adobe programs. Although I have my Adobe certifications, I see how annoying it is that Adobe has such a high learning curve, whereas something like Luminar 3 and Aurora HDR, you can dive straight into, and they have tools for you that are available if you're not a professional photographer. And if you're still not convinced that this is for you, you can go onto Skylum's website and download a trial. If you do decide to buy, I can give you an extra $10 off. Just use the code KinoElise, and I can get you an extra $10 off, even if the software is on sale, of Aurora HDR or Luminar 3. So I hope this was informative. I hope that you guys have fun. I hope that you guys become my new Skylum chums, because I'm over the moon about how this looks. This took me less than a half hour to process, and if I were to do this in both Lightroom and Photoshop, this probably would have taken me about an hour, hour and a half to get results that even look close to this. So download a version if you're feeling like it. You can tweet me with any questions. Skylum's Twitter is also available should you have any questions. I also have a first look at Luminar 3, which is Skylum's answer to Lightroom, and it's like kicking their butt and taking market shares right now, and I'm really excited to see what they can do. I feel bad, man, because like I grew up on Adobe, but Adobe taught me the art world, it taught me patience, it taught me hate, but Skylum's over here changing my mind and teaching me love. Don't forget to like and subscribe below if you guys feel like it. Really, any of your support matters. I love your retweets, even your likes on Instagram. I super duper appreciate it. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys. Bye.